I think we have enough of an interview here, Hope. Okay, that's enough. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go meet for 2 seconds, okay? Thanks. I'll see you in a little while. Thanks.
Be careful.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to a special edition of Media Watch. And with just over 24 hours until what many US voters say is the most important election ever, Donald Trump and the US media are still firing shots at each other, with the president walking out of a major 60 Minutes interview after complaining they had not treated him fairly.
Right from the beginning. No, your first question was, this is going to be tough questions.
Why?
You don't ask Joe Biden. I saw your interview with Joe, the interview with Joe Biden.
I never did a Joe Biden interview.
And after pulling up stumps, Trump was soon onto Twitter to complain about his interrogator, Leslie Stahl.
Look at the bias, hatred and rudeness. Watch her constant interruptions and anger. Compare my full, flowing and magnificently brilliant answers.
And out on the hustings at rally after rally, Trump has been singing the same old song.
I'm running against the left-wing corrupt media, and we're running against big tech.
Thus, the war with the media continues. 4 years ago, just about everyone in the US mainstream media wanted Trump to lose, including newspapers that had always backed the Republicans. And almost all thought he was such a disaster he could not possibly win. But we know what happened to that prediction.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody.
This time, dare we say, Trump looks even less likely to pull off a victory. Joe Biden is an average 9 points ahead in the national polls, and the betting markets have him a hot favourite at $1.50. Meanwhile, The Economist gives Biden a 96% chance of becoming the next president. So, the $64,000 question is, can Trump prove the polls and the media wrong again? Forecasting whiz Nate Silver, who got the 2008 and 2012 elections spectacularly right, but not 2016, told ABC America last night.
So we have Trump with a 10% shot and Biden with a 90% shot. So 10% things happen fairly often. At the same time, you could have a polling error of the magnitude of 2016, and Biden would win Pennsylvania by a point or two, Michigan by 2 or 3 points, Arizona by a point. So that little extra cushion, maybe people who didn't like Clinton and Trump but can tolerate Biden, might be enough, even if there is a polling miss.
To get to the White House, Biden needs to carry at least 3 states that voted for Trump last time. And the one that's most likely to get him over the line is Pennsylvania. His lead there is around 5 points, which is not much bigger than Clinton's in 2016, before she lost the state. And with riots on the streets this week, after another police shooting, it's even harder to be sure which way voters will jump. Silver gives Biden an 85% chance of winning the state, but warns...
I think it would come down to Pennsylvania, and maybe a lot of little things add up, and Biden loses Pennsylvania by half a point. Without Pennsylvania, then Biden becomes an underdog.
And most other pundits and the media are heeding that caution, with a string of stories, even in fiercely liberal publications like The Atlantic and The New Yorker, about how Trump could win, or tracing a possible path to victory. But who can blame them? As Clinton's former campaign manager told Politico,
I think all of us, Democrats, the media, Republicans, I think all of us are suffering a severe PTSD from 2016 and have great fear of getting it very wrong again.
But if the media aren't calling the winner yet, most have decided who they want to win. And across the USA, 9 out of 10 newspapers have called for Trump to be ejected, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, the Philadelphia Inquirer and Chicago Tribune, as well as USA Today in its first ever presidential endorsement, and the New Hampshire Union Leader in its first Democratic endorsement in 100 years. Not that you'd know that listening to the president at a rally in Florida last week.
We got endorsements from a lot of newspapers all over. We got a lot of endorsements.
4 years ago, there was much talk of Trump taking America and the rest of us into a post-truth world of alternative facts. And there was debate about whether the US media should call him out. Now, most of them make a point of doing just that, like CNN's Trump watcher Daniel Dale after the last presidential debate.
We have a president who is running for re-election on a strategy of serial, deliberate dishonesty, and it's getting worse.
Dale pointed to a number of falsities from Joe Biden on the night, but they were swamped by the number of lies from Trump. As the Washington Post reported last week,
as President Trump entered the final stretch of the election season, he began making more than 50 false or misleading claims a day. It's only gotten worse, so much so that the fact-checker team cannot keep up. As of August 27, the tally in our database that tracks every errant claim by the president stood at 22,247 claims in 1,316 days.
the count was 8 weeks behind, the Post noted, because its team of reporters were drowning in the backlog. And on CBS, the paper's chief fact-checker, Glenn Kessler, explained why.
He lies about just about everything. It's about himself, his persona. He lies about his enemies. He lies about policy issues. He misleads about things that he could actually not have to mislead about.
Meanwhile, Trump claims the lamestream media are the ones who are lying, and he's made fake news a part of the lexicon, for which a Google search now turns up millions of hits.
We are fighting the fake news. It's fake, phony, fake. You are fake news. The fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news. Fake news.
And Trump has certainly convinced his supporters the media are lying. Once upon a time in America, people had their own opinions. Now they have their own set of facts as well, which their chosen media feeds to them unchallenged. As the Washington Post's Carol Leonnig told the ABC's RM Breakfast,
I think that most voters are looking at both of these candidates through the megaphone they cleave to in their own homes. Maybe it is the right-wing conservative media or what they view to be the much more liberal progressive media. People are hearing one voice over and over again, the voice they want to hear, which is my candidate's great, the other one doesn't have a policy. And that is actually the sad thing about the United States at this time.
or as the Australian's Washington correspondent Cameron Stewart put it to Media Watch,
to flick the TV from conservative Fox News to liberal CNN is like switching between two Americas, neither of which understands the other.
Thus, if you tune into Fox, you'll be told Joe Biden is an absolute no-hoper.
The cognitively struggling, weak, frail 77-year-old who often doesn't even remember who he's running against. He was napping the whole time, hiding in his basement. Joe's barely able to leave that bunker for more than one day at a time.
And if you switch over to CNN or MSNBC, you'll be assured that Donald Trump is even worse.
Donald Trump cares for no one or anything other than himself. He's a con man. He's a fraud. He's a racist. I've also stated he's a homophobe, Islamophobe, anti-Semite, sexist, misogynist. He's just a gigantic baby.
But some big players in the media are batting for Trump, like the Murdoch's New York Post, which has endorsed Trump's re-election, and which delivered this bombshell front-page story 3 weeks ago.
Biden's secret emails.
Revealed, Ukrainian exec thanked Hunter Biden for opportunity to meet Veep Dad.
Trump's supporters in the media hoped that story would swing the election. But again, the facts are disputed. The email supposedly came from a laptop left at a computer repair shop last year by Hunter Biden, which somehow found its way to Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. But the repair shop owner can't be 100% sure it was Hunter who dropped it off because he is legally blind. And some believe the emails were more likely hacked, with claims the Russians were involved again. The Murdoch-owned Fox News dismisses that idea.
This is not a Russian hoax. Again, we're saying this definitively. We're not speculating. The laptop in question is real. It belonged to Hunter Biden. So there's no excuse for not asking about it.
And the mainstream media's failure to cover the story or take it seriously, says America's highest-rating cable host, Tucker Carlson, is proof of how biased and untrustworthy they have become.
It was a cover-up in real time. No matter what happens in the election next month, the American media will never be the same after this. It cannot continue this way. It is too dishonest.
Amazingly, Facebook and Twitter have taken sides on this as well, with Facebook limiting the spread of the New York Post story, and Twitter initially banning users from sharing links to the story in tweets and direct messages. And as US journalist Joanne Lippman told CNBC, that is a first.
We have never seen mainstream media publications being fact-checked and shut down by or reduced in terms of sharing by a Facebook or Twitter. But we also had never seen them having to do that for a president of the United States.
Last week, Twitter put a misleading label on Trump's tweets about big problems with mail-in ballots and stopped users from liking, retweeting or replying to the tweet. It also flagged as misleading Trump's claim that mail drop boxes are not COVID sanitised. And since July, Facebook has been adding information labels to Trump and Biden posts on voting, although they're not fact-checking them. So, is putting a label on Trump without fact-checking enough? Not according to Gizmodo, which wrote,
in the context of Facebook's consistent enabling of the president's harmful lies, it's more like duct tape on a leaky oil tanker.
Meanwhile, it is on social media that much of the campaign is being fought, with millions of dollars being spent on killer ads by both sides. This one is called Fairy Tale, from the Lincoln Project, set up by anti-Trump Republicans.
A man comes down from his tower and is crowned the most powerful man on earth. He gives to the rich and takes from the poor. He makes friends with our enemies and enemies of our friends. And then one day, a disease came upon the land. Fear not, he says, for it is a hoax, and will not harm those who believe in me. As thousands and thousands suffer and die, he lies and says all will disappear with a sip of his magic potion.
That ad has had several million views on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Meanwhile, the Trump campaign has been targeting Biden gaffes and lack of sharpness with ads like this one.
He went, he became president. I didn't go, and I'm still vice president.
And in addition to that, we have to make sure that we are in a position that we are,
you know, the rapidly rising I don't know.
Biden has arguably been lucky to get an easy time from the media in a race that everyone agrees is all about Trump and a referendum on his character and performance. And Fox News media expert Howard Kurtz, predictably, but perhaps rightly, blames media bias for this lack of scrutiny.
I do think you can make a case that so much of the mainstream media is so heavily invested in hostility toward President Trump, and at this point, for many of them, not all, but for many of them, I would say his defeat, that they are going easy on these questions raised by Biden.
And out on the stump for Trump, Brexit leader Nigel Farage put it more bluntly.
He beat the pollsters, he beat the media, he beat all the predictions, and here's the worst bit, they've never forgiven him for it.
And according to Politico, the biggest favour the media's paid to Joe Biden has been to just ignore him.
For much of his political career before becoming vice president, Biden was regarded by the press as a doofus. Should Uncle Joe be lucky enough to win the White House, the press corps will instantly rediscover their original view of him, and America will wonder how he ever got there.
In the meantime, most of the media are more concerned about what will happen if Trump wins again. And joining them are some of those who've worked closely with the president or know him well. 10 days ago, the president's former national security advisor, his former director of communications and his niece all told The Guardian it would be a disaster if Trump were voted back for another 4 years.
I don't think he has the character or fitness to be president.
The fact is, he's an idiot. He's out there doing ridiculous things, and I fear for the world.
If he wins, it's over. Democracy is over.
And Watergate veteran Bob Woodward, who helped bring down Nixon in 1974 and recently wrote a book on Trump, confessed,
I can't think of a time where I felt more anxiety about the country and the presidency.
So, what if Trump does win? What lessons would there be for the media, and what should they do differently? The AFR's former US correspondent John Kehoe told MediaWatch,
travel more outside the Washington Beltway.
With the Australian's Cameron Stewart adding,
this is the only way to truly understand the forces that put Trump in the White House, and if he wins, kept him there.
And former ABC correspondent Zoe Daniel suggests
fewer commentators, fewer inflammatory gotcha moments, more real storytelling based around the stories and experiences of real Americans.
To be fair, the media has been doing much more of that this time. Meanwhile, if Trump leaves the White House, will politics and political reporting go back to normal? Sadly, not a chance. A Gallup poll in September found only 40% of Americans now trust the media. And while that's a bit better than in 2016, the improvement is all on one side. 73% of Democrat voters now trust the media, up from 51% when Trump was elected. But only 10% of Republican voters now have trust or confidence, which is even lower than in 2016. Meanwhile, a new right-wing ecosystem has grown up to serve them, with Trump booster sites like Breitbart, The Daily Caller and InfoWars flourishing, and feeding social media many of its daily most shared stories. And Trump doesn't need to be in the White House to be the centre of attention. As one Republican operative told the LA Times,
even with a big loss, he will still be the kingmaker of the Republican Party in many senses.
Trump could do that by calling into Fox News, or even investing in the alt-right channel he's helped to elevate, the One America News Network, or OANN. As CNN politics editor-at-large Chris Cillizza said last month,
it doesn't take much of a leap of imagination to think of ex-President Trump becoming a co-owner in OANN after vacating the White House, and then using his profile and legion of dedicated fans to boost the network's profile as a true Trumpian alternative to Fox News. One thing is absolutely for sure. Donald Trump isn't going to be gone from your TV screens anytime soon.
So, whoever wins this week, the forecast for US politics and the media is sadly more anger and division. Some businesses in Washington and New York have been boarded up, while Reuters journalists have been issued with flak jackets and gas masks. If the election is disputed, or even if it's not, things could get ugly. That's all from us tonight. There's more on our website, where you can stream or download the programme. And don't forget, Media Bites, every Thursday on your favourite social media platform. But for now, until next week, goodbye.